If you look around at the global economy these days, there are worrying signs. Growth is slowing almost everywhere. Even China is going through a difficult transition. Countries like Brazil and Russia are in real crisis. But there is a bright spot out there: India. It's the fastest growing major economy in the world. It has a young and vibrant population, and it's poised to benefit from a great technological boom. I recently visited the world's most populous democracy to understand India's opportunity and what it could mean for the rest of the world. I met with some of India's key figures, including the country's richest man and Bollywood's #1 superstar. They all shed light on a place that is going to be increasingly crucial to the global economy. I'm Fareed Zakaria. Join me to find out if now is India's big chance. When oil prices drop, countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia face troubles as their revenues dry up. But cheap oil helps a lot of other countries, none more so than India. Every time the global price of crude goes down $1, India saves about $1 billion in import bills. I brought that up with India's richest man, Mukesh Ambani, at his home in Mumbai. Your company runs the largest oil refinery in the world. What do you think is the trajectory for oil prices going forward?
Well, as we see the situation, it's low for long. And this is really the first time in the world that oil prices have gone down on incremental supply.
Meaning, explain what that means.
What it really means is that we've had oil price spikes, but never has it because there has been more supply than demand. It's also the first time that you now have, because of the innovation in the US, right? We have large quantities of oil. The US has really gone from less than 1 million barrels a day to 9 million barrels a day of oil production. And with the oversupply, OPEC has lost the controlling factor. And with that, there is oversupply in the world.
How long is long?
Well, I think that at least 3 to 5 years until we see a structural change is my view, but I've always been wrong. So,
not in my recollection, but what is the consequence of this? What is the business consequence of having, this is a dramatic situation, right?
Well, as we sit in India, the consequence for India is very favorable, as we are one of the largest importers of oil, and it helps our foreign exchange bill. It helps also lower prices, and in a certain sense, it helps the fiscal deficit of government because they can mop up incremental revenue. So for oil importing countries, it's very good. But even with the added revenue, it is simply not enough for the massive infrastructure projects India needs. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index, India ranks 81st out of the 140 countries surveyed when it comes to basic infrastructure. Just recently, CNN covered the collapse of an overpass under construction in the city of Kolkata. Dozens were killed. But the problems go beyond roads and bridges. India ranks 84th for health and primary education, 90th for higher education and training. To fix these problems, you need big, sweeping investments. And these are all the more crucial in a world in which all jobs in the future might need some advanced skills. I talked about this to India's Finance Minister, Arun Jaitley. We were chatting in front of a live audience at a CNN Asia Business Forum in Mumbai.
the share, the financial revenue share of manufacturing in the economy has to grow and probably will grow. As far as jobs are concerned, even though people speak in terms of the new kind of industrial revolution which will take place where lesser people will be employed in factories, and that's what's being visualized. But I have still full faith in human ingenuity that even when jobs are lost in certain sectors, corresponding or more jobs are created because of economic activity in many other sectors.
Job creation is one of India's great challenges. It is often noted that the median age in India is just 27. The country has a young population with many working years ahead of it. But there is a flip side. New Delhi needs to create about 12 million jobs a year just to keep up with the steady stream of young Indians entering the workforce. And according to the National Skill Development Mission, only about 2% of India's workforce has been formally trained. By comparison, Germany and Japan are 75 and 80% trained, respectively. South Korea is 96%. But could there be a game changer on the horizon? India's top online entrepreneur thinks so. We'll hear from him next. Welcome back to our look at India's big chance. When it comes to technology, India is far from a global powerhouse. It ranked 120th in the world for technological readiness. Yet many believe the country is in a good position to make advances. It's called leapfrogging. I spoke to CNN's India Bureau Chief, Ravi Agrawal, about this. What does it mean when we talk about leapfrogging?
Well, what leapfrogging really means is you're jumping the middle stages. So take America, for example. You had people discovering the internet on their PCs in the 1990s using a dial-up connection. Now, they graduated from dial-up internet to DSL and cable in the 1990s. Then they got routers, then they got Wi-Fi, and then much later they began using cellular devices or mobile devices, and that had 3G and 4G connections, so now they could use the internet on their smartphones and on other devices. That's a steady evolution in their use of the internet. For India, it's going to be a revolution. Indians are skipping the PC stage. They are discovering, a majority of Indians are discovering the internet on their smartphones. And these aren't Apple iPhones. These are by and large very cheap Indian-made smartphones that cost $30 to $40 with very cheap data plans. And that is allowing hundreds of millions of Indians to get online. They are discovering the internet on a smartphone.
Consider the numbers. In 2010, only 100 million Indians were on the internet. By 2015, there were 350 million Indians online. Most of the growth came from mobile. By 2020, many expect anywhere from 600 to 800 million Indians to be online. You heard from Mukesh Ambani earlier. His company has big interests in the media space as well. It's even partnered with CNN for a CNN-branded channel in India. And Ambani is now betting his big bucks on the internet. It's a new venture called Reliance Jio.
Jio is the Reliance venture in the internet technology space, which really encompasses the foundational next generation infrastructure for broadband infrastructure across India, integrates it with next generation applications, device and distribution. So we're building really the whole next generation digital ecosystem for India.
To put it simply, would it be fair to say India has not really been connected to the internet in a broad sense because infrastructure being such that the landlines that provide wired internet only reach about 100, 150 million Indians. What you are proposing, this revolution,
How many million Indians do you think will get connected to the internet in the next year, year and a half?
Well, we are ready to launch, and in the second half of 2016, 80% of India's population will have high-speed mobile broadband internet. So 80% of the 1.3 billion Indians will have high-speed mobile internet, and the top 100 cities will have what we call fiber to the home services, and by 2017 end we would cover 90%, and by 2018 all of India would be covered by this digital infrastructure.
By 2018, all of India, 1.3 billion people, and you're talking about broadband internet that you can access on a smartphone.
Yes, mobile broadband internet, which is next generation, so which
So you
is
can watch
of a
video.
higher quality than what you see anywhere else in the world. We are building this grassroots, ground up, as the world's largest all IP network that is what we call future ready, broadband ready. So it's really a video network for 1.3 billion people, which then is 5G ready, which can then take in all the applications for smart cities and for smart homes, and really get you into the digital world that we are all going to witness.
We visited Ambani's Geo Experience Center in Mumbai. Smartphones displayed blazing download speeds. They had a connected home display with TVs that could instantly video chat across the nation, download entire movies and songs. There were even smart security systems.
So in 2018, will a rural farmer in India have better internet capacity than somebody in America?
I think that if you look at what you have in the US, right? After 5 years, all the major carriers today cover only 75 to 80% of the US, and we would be pretty much doing that in 2016 itself. Purely in capacity terms, because we are building ground up, right? Just to give you an idea, we are building like 5 times the capacity that the US consumes in 2016. In 2016, of course, you have to make sure that we have 1.3 billion people, and the US has 300 million people. But this is a future-ready infrastructure, and we think that this infrastructure is critical to really get innovation going in India, and for India to not only contribute to India's economy, but the rest of the world.
Reliance Jio is expected to roll out this year. A super fast internet infrastructure is a game changer for new online marketplaces. Just ask Kunal Bahl, the founder and CEO of Snapdeal, an Indian version of eBay valued well over $6 billion.
India had a problem where we just didn't have enough PCs and didn't have enough broadband connections. But like many other phases, like we actually leapfrogged landline phones straight to mobile phones. And we're going to leapfrog broadband internet or wired internet to the home straight to mobile internet. So already on our platform, 75% of all our orders are placed on mobile phones. The number was 5% 2 years ago. That shows the exponential growth that we've seen. It's all incremental for us.
What is different about the Indian consumer compared to the American or Western consumer?
The stereotype is valid to some extent. Indian consumers are significantly value seeking, which is different from lowest price seeking. Indian consumers have a great appreciation for what am I getting at what price, and whether that makes a good value equation or not. And so a lot of our thinking as a company is always going into how do you deliver the right value to the right consumer. What I mean by that is, as a result of which we are working more and more with manufacturers now, and rather than having them go through distributors and more distributors and retailers and 5 steps in the process, We are talking directly to the manufacturers who are listing on our platform and selling to consumers directly. So I'll give you an example. A sari, which is women's ethnic wear, which costs $30 in a shop in Delhi, actually the cost of manufacturing is just $5. By the time it reaches the consumer, because of relatively poor infrastructure and many hops along the way, it's 4 times the price. We sell that same exact sari from the same manufacturer across the country to any consumer in only $9, including free shipping. And everyone in the value chain makes money.
There's no doubt that technology is going to spawn a whole new ecosystem of commerce. One prism through which we can see the changes is one of India's biggest, liveliest, and freest industries, Bollywood. I'll ask India's megastar, Shah Rukh Khan, if he agrees that this is India's big chance. There is no doubt that India has one of the world's fastest growing middle classes. And when the middle classes grow, there are more people spending money. And one area Indians will spend more is the movies. Consider this. By some estimates, the United States has some 40,000 multiplex screens. China has 20,000. India has only 2,000 multiplex screens. And while Bollywood movies remain very popular, there is a growing market for American blockbusters. Last year, 3 of the biggest titles, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Jurassic World, and Furious 7, combined to make nearly $70 million in India, making them 3 of the 4 top-grossing Hollywood movies in India ever. Is this a threat to the Bollywood industry? Well, I asked the biggest Indian star of all, Shah Rukh Khan. Think of him as Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks rolled into one.
What happens, how do you deal with the competition, I suppose it is, of Hollywood movies that are now essentially made for a global audience, so that many of the movies that Hollywood makes now make a majority of their revenues outside the United States, and they are designed in a way to appeal to people, so they have more action, or they have cartoon figures, not a lot of dialogue, less complex character development. Are they the kind of the competition, the new global competition you face?
Thankfully, unless they have 6 songs in their films, they're not competing with us, which I'm sure is not going to happen. But I think you're completely right. I've always had this worry, if I may say so, that if we are not able to change our cinema quickly enough, we would be kind of overtaken, like Hollywood has. Principal movies all around the world are Hollywood films. India is the only country where local cinema does better than international cinema. And Mr. Quentin Tarantino, I heard him say it somewhere, I think at Cannes or somewhere, where he said, the reason for local movies to survive is stardom. So there is still a huge balance of stardom in this country, whether it's a director or an actor or an actress. And I think that stardom keeps it, it's like watching a football match. You want to see stars. You want NBA because you have some great basketball players. So I think as long as the star system is retained in this country, it will be some time before international cinema takes in. But yeah, international stars are also kind of becoming local stars. But like I said, the Indian cinema is changing so fast right now with all the young filmmakers and actors and actresses. I think that it would be quite a while before international cinema becomes actual competition. But I won't deny the fact that there are films which do take over from Indian cinema at this point, once in a year.
Now you're also trying to adopt the best technology and a kind of technical artistry of Hollywood. So you have a movie fan where you play a fan of yourself, but
okay.
but that fan
sounds very narcissistic.
But that fan is 25 years younger than you, and that has been achieved with makeup, Benjamin Button style. You got the same guy.
Yeah.
but also computers. Explain.
Actually, I think the way forward for Indian cinema is going to be technology. And internationally, cinemas are changing. And I'm not saying just make animated superhero films. I think cinema is going to move forward as long as we have technology in the country, and we do have it. We've been doing the back-end work for a lot of international films, and the time has come that we start actually using it creatively for our own films. So Fan is a step in that direction. I mean, the story was very interesting, to play a 24-year-old fan of a movie star who kind of looks like the movie star or thinks he looks like him. So we got the prosthetics done by Mr. Greg, who's Benjamin Button. But the VFX is first time in the world, you know, to, I don't know the word to use, but youthify or youngify the person to 24 for 2.5 hours or 2 hours that the film length is.
And how that, and what is done? You're made thinner?
I'm made thinner by about a couple of inches. I'm shorter, as if I wasn't short enough. Shorter by 2 inches, and yeah, my eyes have been made a little big, and the cheeks have been brought out. When you're younger, they're more filled. The dimples have been reduced a little, and the nose is made very, very small, thankfully. So he does look like me, but doesn't look like me. And I think we've kind of achieved international standards. So it would be a first time. And I hope everyone appreciates that internationally. So that's one foray or step into that direction. Coming out of India, I think that will be one of the first Make in India kind of things which have an international standard. And that's what a lot of filmmakers are doing.
In 2014, India took part in the world's biggest ever election. More than 800 million Indians cast their votes and elected a dynamic, though controversial, Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Modi promised big reforms. He said it would become easier to do business in India. He promised large-scale infrastructure projects. In what remains his only TV interview as Prime Minister, Modi told me he had a roadmap to grow India's economy the way China's did in the last 2 decades. It hasn't worked out that way so far. Modi's ideas have struggled to get approved in Parliament. The opposition has been uncooperative. Critics say Modi hasn't reached across the aisle enough, and he has allowed his party to move in divisive directions on religious and social issues, polarizing the country. Some would say this is the price of democracy. And it is true, Modi appears to want reforms, but faces constraints from the opposition, his own party, from organized interests who fear any change. But democracy has some distinct advantages as well. India has never enacted a one-child policy, so it has strong demographics. It has a free and flourishing media. Its society is vibrant, freewheeling, creative, and increasingly connected to the global economy. The challenges for the Indian state, government and opposition, bureaucrats and judges, to mirror the aspirations and dynamism of Indian society. Indians look at the future with optimism. They just need a government that matches their mood. I'm Fareed Zakaria. Thank you for watching.